everyone, and welcome back to Market Insights Travel Edition. Today I have with me our analyst Seipati, who recently returned from a trip to Turkey. So Seipati, you attended 7 one-on-one meetings and 2 conferences. What were some of the key high-level takeaways from the conferences and one-on-one meetings that you attended?
So I attended 7 one-on-one meetings with different retailers, banks, and the holding companies. And the last day in Turkey, we did it with Morgan Stanley, where we just got a clearer view in terms of the landscape in e-commerce and fintechs in the country. I think my one takeaway was how competitive Turkey is. And despite the volatility currently and the uncertainty, people on the ground are spending money and the economy is quite vibrant.
Great, thank you. And speaking on the economy, Turkey's GDP per capita has grown quite impressively over the last few years. Could you maybe give us some insights into that?
I think there are a few contributors to the growth in GDP versus the world average. The first one would be, I think, the favorable demographics. So Turkey does have a relatively young population versus peers. And another one would be that in the 2000s, they have seen a rapid urbanization in the country. So this has meant that people have been moving from rural areas to urban areas, but the labor market has also changed from agricultural heavy economy to a more services economy. And the services would be, for example, in industries like tourism, textiles, and other export businesses. Value add per person has increased in the country. But Turkey has not been without its challenges. It's actually quite synonymous with high inflation. The periods 2022 to 2023 experienced hyperinflation, with real rates in negative territory due to a push in unconventional monetary policies. But we are seeing a bit of a change, a slow change at that, with the push into more conventional monetary policies. So inflation has come off from its peak, but interest rates are at an all-time high.
So given this really volatile environment, how have companies reacted and what are we seeing with earnings growth?
Contrary to the challenges, earnings growth in Turkey in dollar terms has actually proven to be quite resilient. And this is due to several factors, but one of them I think would be the sector composition of the index. For example, exporters actually have benefited through the FX tailwinds, and banks, which are quite a significant part of the index, also benefited from loan spreads.
And in this environment, what type of companies stand out?
I think one of the companies that come to mind is BİM. So BİM is a Turkish discount retailer. So they have shown to be quite resilient in pricing power. This can also be seen in how their revenue has actually grown ahead of inflation. This can also be seen in their gross margin expansion in the past few years. This is because they're able to sell their inventory at higher prices. So inventory gain, which means like selling at higher prices, whereas they would have bought the inventory at lower cost.
So how is this environment affecting overall valuations? And could you maybe delve into the disparity between multiples and profitability in companies?
If we were to look at the multiples, or rather valuation, Turkey is actually trading at a discount versus the MSCI. And this is despite the growing earnings that I had shown earlier on in dollar terms. This does speak to a few things, one of them being the risk that is being priced in. But it's quite interesting that if you look at the retailers, BİM, for example, another one would be Migros, they are trading at a 10 times forward, which is a premium versus where the Turkish index is at. I think that this just speaks to their dynamic in the current environment. So these companies are high growth companies, even in dollar terms, if you look at their top line growth. Another thing would be scale. So the discount model in Turkey is quite prevalent in that they're able to open a lot of stores. I think the pricing power, which I've shown with the revenue growth as well, and also just how their model works. One of them would be like the negative working capital cycle, meaning that they're able to delay payments to suppliers. Thus, that would improve their cash flow. And also I've spoken about the inventory gain, which helps their gross margin. So they're able to sell at higher prices, but their inventory would have been bought at lower prices at that point in time. So there are opportunities in the market despite the current environment.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. Could you maybe give us some insights as to what your personal highlights were from the trip?
I think the first one would be how chaotic, but in a beautiful way, Turkey is. It's very busy, very vibrant, like I had mentioned. So on the ground, things are normal. People are out and about doing touristy things, as Turkey is known for its tourism sector as well. I think one thing that stood out for me is how patriotic the people in Turkey are. You see a lot of flags everywhere you go. There's also a lot of cats, which I thought was quite interesting. The food is amazing. Just to see like the different, I think, e-commerce players doing their deliveries as well just gives you a bit of insight into how competitive the landscape is. Beautiful architecture as well. So from a personal insight perspective, it is just a beautiful country that seems to work despite the challenges.
Thank you so much. It sounds like you really had a great trip, and I can't wait to see these themes and opportunities evolving over the next few months.
It's my pleasure.
And to the audience, please feel free to join us for our next session of Market Insights Travel Edition, where we'll have some more analysts talking about their trips overseas. Thank you so much.